having a certain level of that feeling of being an imposter is somewhat healthy.
Yes.
Because so there's two different approaches whenever you're doing something. If you feel like you're the best at what you're doing,
Mhm.
you tend to not do as well as you could be. And that's because of that feeling to want to be the best causes you to strive. So whenever you feel like you might be an imposter, a lot of times that comes from doing new things. And so
Mhm.
if you're in a new environment, you're around new people, or people are asking you to do something you may have never done before, it's healthy to have a little voice in your head sometimes like, wow, are you really this qualified? Because that voice is going to force you to be in the present moment more. You're going to think more about it, like, all right, I want to do a good job. Versus if you're a little too overconfident, like you may just sit back, like, oh man, I'm the best at this. Like, I don't need to worry about it. And it's pride. Like we allow pride to creep in instead of humility. And so that's what I try to always tell people. Is like, man, if you feel like you're kind of a little in over your head, that's good.
This is Health Unfiltered, the podcast where we cut through the bullshit and get honest about fitness, nutrition, and mental wellness.
Going to be discussing how to take charge of your mental health so you can live the life you want. So Shay, if you could tell us a little about yourself and tell us how you got to where you are now.
No problem. So, as a business aspect, I'm an award-winning fractional chief operating officer, which just means that I work inside of different small businesses as a chief operating officer. So they get a fraction of my time. But I'm also a business coach, helping online service-based businesses to make their first six figures. Because on my service side, the businesses that I work in usually are at multiple six figures or seven figures. And so, my thing is helping people get off the block and to make it to their first six figures using my superpowers of organization and operations and psychology, all the things. So that's who I am. But that has nothing to do with why we're here today, right? Because we're here today because I live this great life of freedom, where I can work and live anywhere in the world. I'm currently in Mexico. This is my second stint in Mexico, but I'm actually about to leave and take a year-long tour of Southeast Asia. But I've lived in Belize, I've lived in Costa Rica, I've lived in Argentina. And that's an extreme version of freedom. And I always hear people saying, oh, I wish I could do that. Well, you can. It's not hard. It's not a huge obstacle. Most people can do what I do. But it all starts with mindset, right? Which is why we're here. Because mindset is a huge thing for most people, because whether it's an extreme version of freedom, or even if it's just, I wish I had a different job, right? It all starts with this same kind of mindset that you need as a foundation to believe that you can do things and actually go after it.
Definitely. Yeah, mindset is so big. I like to say that mental health is the most important aspect of overall health, and
It is.
mindset is right in line with that.
Mm-hmm.
So what inspired you to help others obtain financial freedom?
To be honest with you, it's just what I said, which is, I'm very vocal about who I am, what I do. And throughout my life, there's been this theme of people saying, oh, I wish I could do that, or I wish I could have that, or I wish I was doing that. Because I tend to, well, I will say on the outside looking in, people think I take a lot of risk because they just see me jump and do stuff, right?
Hmm.
But on the inside, y'all, I'm not really a risk taker. I'm too much of a perfectionist to be a risk taker. So, I've done things like done my research and figured out what resources I have versus what I need and what path should I take. But they just see me say things like, I want this. And then the next time they look around, they're like, oh, she got that. She said she was going to do it, and she has it. Because it never dawns on me to think that I can't have the things that I want. Like, it's just, what am I missing to get there? If anybody else have it, I can have it. So what am I missing? What do they have that I don't have? So it's, to me, it's as simple as that. And with people coming to me and saying, I wish I had that, I wish I could do that, that's what inspires me to say, okay, This is how I do it. And I'm not telling you that the way I do it is the only way to do it, but I'm saying this is how I did it. And how you can do it is kind of tweak it to what your resources are, what your, we're going to say, what your thresholds of risk and, all that kind of stuff is. You kind of adapt it. Some people can do things quicker than I did things because I am going to do my research, right? But some people are just like, I'll figure it out when I get there.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by Living the Protein Lifestyle. This is the first book in the Protein Lifestyle series, and it's my story of how I was able to lose over 80 pounds, overcome depression, IBS, and food addiction. It provides the simple tips and strategies that really work. It's not just some fad diet, it's a lifestyle. When you apply these tactics to your life, you're gonna look good and you're gonna feel good. And you can incorporate these strategies into your everyday life so that they become just another routine habit, and you'll be able to look and feel your best too. Pick up Living the Protein Lifestyle on Amazon now. It's under $10. You'll support me and support yourself. I'd really appreciate it. Now back to the show.
Yeah. I have a girlfriend that actually scares me. I could never do it the way that she does it. So she came to Argentina. I think she was in Asia. She came to Argentina. She didn't book a place to live until she got off the plane. Do you know how I would be dry heaving? Like I can't, I'm not really spontaneous like that. But that just goes to prove whoever you are, you can do things your way. Like nothing can stop you if you just understand that you can do it and then just figure out, do your gap analysis and figure out what you need to get there.
Definitely. Yeah, everyone has their different strengths and their different way of doing things. And I feel like my story is similar. I was inspired to help others from my success in my health transformation. And I just really find a lot of value in helping other people and helping them achieve their goals. So
I love that.
Yeah. So what's it like living and running a business outside of the US?
To me, the first thing that I did was I came out of corporate America because, I feel like, I didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on me with that damn go to school and get a good job and retire, when you can't do shit, what I'm saying? When you're too old and decrepit to move around, then you get to live your life. That just didn't work for me. So when I got the good job, I was a paralegal for a Fortune, I'm going to say 100 company. In Georgia, it was in the Buckhead area. And so I was making good money, had the mini mansion. I mean, for God's sake, I had a butler's pantry. So, I'm living the life. But what I recognized was I'm making all of this money that's supposed to fund all of the things that I always ever wanted to do. And I don't even have the time to do it. I actually, when I have the time, don't have the damn energy to do it. And so I just felt like, what is this crap, this load of crap that somebody has sold me, that this is the way you do things. So the first thing that I did was became a full-time entrepreneur. Now I didn't jump and I did kind of jump. But I didn't just like one day stop. I actually had things in place to, I had invested in business coaching so that I could understand how my business would look as a location independent business. But I did think that it would take me 3 years. It only took me one to actually be fully successful in that business. So that was the first thing I did. I created this location independent business. The next thing that I did was like, okay, now that I can work from anywhere, where do I want to work? Like, I don't need this big house. Most of my children have moved out. I'm making good money and I can keep most of that money if I would downsize. So what do I want to do? And I thought about it. I was like, I could go back to Alabama, which is my home state. And I was like, well, who the hell wants to go back to Alabama? Like, no. And then I was like, you know what? Your ultimate goal was to travel. And I really thought, y'all, it was going to be like tiny home living. I really thought that it was going to be some kind of digital nomading within the United States until I recognized, hey, you remember in 2017 when you were on the beach in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and you were like, you could do this, like if this was your everyday. So I really started to just list, what do I want my everyday to look like, right? What were the freedoms that had me frustrated with corporate America? Like, I'm very good at what I do. So in corporate America, I'm like, when I do my work, it shouldn't matter what time I get here. It shouldn't matter what time I leave. It shouldn't matter how long my break is, because I'm damn good at what I do and it's done. Right. But the politics of it all, the office politics of it all, the crazy leadership of it all is what makes those things, that job and that corporate America atmosphere, not what you want. So I should be
Hmm.
able to go and take a yoga class at 10 a.m. if I have finished everything you need by 10 a.m. And come back. And, I should be able to take a longer break, because I don't know if y'all know about Georgia, especially like the Atlanta area. Everything is at least an hour away. I don't care what you need, it's probably an hour away, right? So to go have lunch with my kid would be an hour to get there, an hour for the lunch, and an hour back. That's 3 hours. Well, that's an unheard of lunch break in corporate America. Just things like that. I really wanted to own my time more. So it didn't make sense that I was making all of the money I ever thought I needed to make, and then it couldn't even fund the lifestyle that I wanted. Because another thing
Hmm.
is I love to travel, but corporate America doesn't want you to take off. So speaking of mental health, you know what I'm saying? Not only are they putting, these office politics on that makes things way more stressful than it has to be, they don't even want you to take off. So I'm accruing PTO and you don't want me to take it? Well, guess what? I'm a vacation girl. I'm going to take my time, and you can say whatever you would like, but PTO can stand for prepare the others, because I'm leaving. Okay, so I'll be back, but I'm going to use up all of my vacation time, especially since they started putting vacation and sick time together. Oh, baby, I don't get sick, so I'm about to be on vacation a lot. So,
There you go.
you know, so to me, that's the kind of mental health stuff that I think that our everyday society works against our mental health. And you really got to be intentional, and you really got to be crafty into getting that design together of how you want life to be, to really kind of bring it about. So once I brought it about, I was like, oh, I don't have to be in Alabama, I don't have to be in the United States. And so I didn't know if I was going to go to Colombia first or Mexico first. I didn't know. When I was looking at flights, it was about the same. The lifestyle seemed to be about the same. I actually didn't make a decision to the last minute when flights to Mexico were cheaper. So that's when I was like, okay, Mexico. So yeah, I was like, I just want that life, and I'm gonna go get it.
I love that. I mean, just designing your life in the way that you
Yes.
want to live it and having that
Mm-hmm.
freedom. I mean, I think it's total bullshit the way corporate America works these days, and
It
the
is.
idea of retiring when you're, 65. It's like, who
Yeah.
wants to wait till they're 65 to start enjoying their life? You got to enjoy life now. I mean, this is the time you have. You never know when
Yes.
it's going to be your last day. So, Brandon, do you
Exactly.
have any thoughts? I know you lived in the Philippines. Was it last summer?
Yes, yeah, and I've traveled extensively. I
Hmm.
did something very similar, well, ish. I got tired of my rat race in Las Vegas, and then with COVID, it's like me and the house that I was in had ballooned in price, and so me and my ex now had cashed in and bought an RV and traveled the entire country, and then so one of the things that you're talking about. That I really want to, the listeners to understand, and I think it's appreciate is once you take that step and you taste that level of freedom, it's really hard to go back. And then you really start to see how this whole corporate lie has woven its way through the whole country. Sorry, guys, this is like I don't know what's going on with my little tripod.
Getting wild over there.
Well, dude, we're like right in the middle of a huge storm and it's like shaking the house. Yeah, it's
Oh
crazy.
man.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's because I know when it's really scary, at first, because we're told from such a young age, get the job, go to school, graduate, save up money. And for me, it was really the switch between realizing that, being wealthy doesn't mean having a lot of money. Being wealthy is about having time. And especially going to Southeast Asia, you really, because they live their lives so differently there. And I know they do in Mexico as well, where people really value experiences more than they value money.
Yes.
And so once you start experiencing that and you start to realize, like, man, I don't know if going after that job and working 60 hours a week for 20 years is worth
Mhm.
it, you know? And another great thing in Southeast Asia, probably in Mexico as well, is there's such a strong entrepreneurial spirit. Everybody just wants to start a business, like literally everywhere.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, my neighbor ran a little breakfast place, and like I'm talking to my fiance's brother about starting a transportation business. And, a lot of it is because the barriers to entry in America, corporate America has made barriers to entry so high that
yeah,
it's almost impossible to start a business. But once you get into another country, you realize like, oh man, I can start a business on like $200.
yes.
Like, I mean, it's like nothing,
Mm-hmm.
And it's really only in America that they've made it seem so impossible. Like, oh, your best bet is to get a job. No, that's a lie. Like, that's all a lie. And it's all a lie because they need workers. Like, rich
Mm,
people need people to work for them so
Yeah,
that they don't have to work.
yeah.
Like,
And we
that's the
and we
whole
can
thing.
thank Henry Ford, right? For our 5 day
Oh,
work,
yeah.
yeah.
40 hours a week. We can thank Mr. Ford. He was kind of a stickler. He really was. I don't know if y'all watched that documentary. I highly recommend watching the documentary. It's on YouTube about Henry Ford and just how much he wanted to control his workers' lives. Even like their personal life and even like the religion and everything. Like he had everything regimented. He and his son weren't, too close. And he was very jealous of the son when the son brought the cars into, a more modern era and all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, we were sold a bill of goods, man, and it does not serve us at all. And it's definitely serving somebody else. And we see the remnants of that, right? Because in the same corporate America that told us that we couldn't work from home was the same corporate America that, to keep going, had everybody working from home during COVID. Oh, they figured it out then, didn't they? So yeah,
Hmm.
they're trying to get us.
Well, I think a lot of it's a
Definitely.
shift too, because back when, the 40-hour work week, so, and you can see other countries. So Mexico right now is right in the middle of their industrial revolution, basically. And so there's a lot of prosperity being had for regular
Yes.
people.
Mm-hmm.
That's where America was, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, where you could work a job and it was great. You could do a lot. And I was watching this TED Talk the other day where this guy was talking about, or it wasn't even a TED Talk, it was like a speech, where he was talking about how in the 50s and 60s they were considering, doing 10 and 20-hour work weeks because people's prosperity was getting so high. And then in the 70s, what happened was a lot of the rich people realized that they didn't really want what was happening, especially after the 60s. They didn't want the protests, they didn't want the small voices becoming big. And a lot of it, isn't necessarily evil. It was just about control, like making a society that was a little bit safer for people. And so a lot of it shifted to limiting time and limiting
Mm,
prosperity because they knew that the more prosperous people were, the more time they would have. And the more time you had, the more time you would think. The more time you would think, the more time you could create problems, and that's bad for society. And so it really shifted, and here we are now, like 50 years later, 55 years later, and we're kind of trapped. People don't make enough money to live. Especially now, it's like a two-income household, whereas we're talking back in the 40s and 50s, it was a single-income household, and
Right.
the single-income household made quite a bit more than the two-income household does now. And and that's really where now I think we are kind of seeing a shift, especially with a lot of the international destinations, especially like with the Philippines. They're right on the cusp of their industrial revolution. So I almost tell everybody, like, man, if you want to invest, like invest in the Philippines because
Yeah.
give them 10, 20 years and they're going to be it's going to be crazy out there. It's like a gold rush almost. And all these corporations know it.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
but having that job is really the trap. And I have so many friends where they got like two, three kids, and they're getting older now. They're getting like preteens and teenagers, and you can just tell that they're not super happy. They're drinking all the time. They're getting into arguments with their wives, and they don't have a lot of free time. They're constantly worried about money, and it's like, man, is this what life is supposed to be? Like, is this it? Like, are you
It's
just
not.
waiting to die, basically?
Yeah.
Um,
And I like what you said about, it started with the Henry Ford thing, but then also the Industrial Revolution and us having more, making more money, all of that. And so, I feel like, the crack that they introduced to us that helped us to kind of kill ourselves in that is consumerism, right? They had us thinking we had to have more and more and more things and more things. And guess what you need to have more and more things, more and more money. And then once you're using up your disposable income, then what you got to do next? You got to work more and more and more and more. So there goes that time that you wanted. And, it's crazy how, people think that when they are researching things, that they're researching things that sound stupid, but they're researching the things that are the psychology that they're then going to, use on us that have us coming back to the way of life that they want us to have that benefits them and the machine. Because it's crazy how, some of the things that we have as a belief system has been programmed into us by advertising agencies, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
oh, you're getting married. Oh, you have to get an engagement ring and it has to be this portion of the man's salary. So now you
Hmm.
working yourself to the bone to get the ring that guess what? De Beers told you need to have. This had nothing to do with a religion. This had nothing to do with any of our cultures. This was advertisement that told us what we were supposed to have. And it looks so many different ways. The house with the 2.5 kids, and I never figured out what a 0.5 kid was. The White House and the picket fence. I mean, all the things, right? And you don't need all of that. And the great thing about traveling and going to other cultures is you see that some of the people that we would say are poor or third world, you know what I'm saying? If they're not necessarily worrying about health, those are some of the happiest people you can ever meet in your life. And why?
Mm.
Because they're not so much into consumerism. They're more into family. They're more into having enough to what they need. They're into experiences, like you said, which don't have to cost money. So
Mm.
yes, I get tired of people online arguing about men and women arguing about a $200 date. It don't take all of that, okay? It doesn't. But we are so into consumerism that it's working against us and it's affecting our mental health and it's affecting the type of life that we're living. And you look back and you're 50 something years old like I am, and you could easily say, I never did anything I said I wanted to do. I had all of these goals and I never achieved any of them. I was so caught in the flow of society, I never etched out and made my own flow that made me happy. And I got tired of hearing stories like that. And so that's why I kept saying, first figure out what you want, then understand somebody has done it, and then understand you can do it too. If anybody else has done it, you can do it. And so you just have to figure out how, and you have to start making those changes, even when, like Joshua said, you're scared. There's going to be fear. To me, fear comes up a lot because it's the unknown. So all you have to do your research and become familiar. You often are not scared of things you're familiar with when you know what to expect. Most things. Some things you are. Some things you can expect for it to be scary. But we're not even talking about those things, right? So do your research, get to know about it, and then make the choices that are best for you. What is your happiness? And then make the choices that are in line with that happiness. Definitely.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean the experiences over material goods is such a big part of it. Like you're saying, we're all brainwashed to think we need the newest iPhone, the newest car, this and that, when it's like you see people that are wealthy and sometimes they're driving an older car, something that's more economical, more efficient, just because that's not what's important to them. And really
Right.
just changing your mindset around all this, I think, is the biggest key,
Yeah.
trying to
And when you
change those
change your
beliefs.
mindset, then you change your environment, right? Because you know that you don't need 50 pairs of shoes. You know this, right? But if you stay in an environment where they keep pushing you, where the thing that they have put in your mind is you can't wear the same thing twice, or how many times are you wearing it? I am now, I go to where, so we were talking before we started recording, right, Brandon? So you missed it. But what we talked about was the fact that I live in places that are already furnished, right? So I'm really going around and living around the world with my check bags and my carry-on and my personal bag, right? And so that doesn't leave a lot of room for stuff. So I have one pair of tennis shoes. Most of the shoes that I own are flip-flops, right? I have a few
Hmm.
flat pairs. I haven't worn heels in years. I don't know. I'm a beach bum. And when I'm doing this transition to Southeast Asia, I won't even be this cute anymore. I have invested in a uniform shirts with my logo on it. So tank tops and baby tees and t-shirts and long sleeve t-shirts and one hoodie, one jacket, with my logo on it. That's what you will see me in from now on, because I don't have room to be trying to look cute. I just need to be comfortable and presentable. And so it's amazing how, as you're traveling, you just see so much that you don't need, that you have, that's really just clogging up stuff and making it harder for you to do some of the things that you want to do because you got too much shit. So yeah.
Definitely.
And it's
Yeah.
really blocks us too. Sorry, Josh. What were you saying?
I was just saying it's amazing on how little you really need, you can get
Exactly.
by on. My wife and I bought a motorhome, well, this motorhome that I'm in right now, a few years ago to go on a road trip. We
Mm-hmm.
were, we live in California and it's super expensive here, and we were thinking
Yes.
about moving out of the state. So we bought a motorhome and we went on a road trip for 2 months. The whole summer we went and traveled around trying to
Mm-hmm.
find other places to potentially move to.
Yeah.
And it's just, realizing that you don't need all that stuff. You
No.
really don't need that much stuff. And
No.
you can be, so much happier, and just worrying about all that stuff and having to deal with it can bog you down so much. And we ended up coming back to California, and my father-in-law got sick, so we ended up staying, but we're still living in the motorhome and making it work, and we love it. It's just really freed us up to do a lot more. We can travel more now. We can do so
Yep.
much more, and it's just so powerful.
How surprised were you to really get into the know and experience that you just don't need that many possessions?
It was scary. It was,
Yeah.
we put all our stuff in storage, and
Mm-hmm.
we just packed up what we needed, and we went on our trip and we came back. And then over the past few years, we've been getting rid of stuff out of storage, and now we don't have a
Yes.
storage unit anymore. We have a shed or two outside that we keep some extra stuff, and it's really just freed us up, and
I mean, it is
it's
so
great.
crazy. And it almost feels shameful when you just realize how much stuff you've invested in over the years when you might have been struggling over something that needed money, that was a true priority. And to just think back to how many clothes do you have? How many pairs of shoes? How much of this? How much
Hmm.
of that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When if you had really just invested in the experiences and in the things that you wanted and ignored what society told you were supposed to have as a jumping
Yes.
off point, you could have been where you wanted to be a long time ago. It's crazy. And so I'm gonna tell you, I have this little recipe of 10 things that I have people to look at when they come to me and say they don't like their life, right? Because anything you don't like, you can change. Like, stop doing what you don't like. But people don't know where to start. And it's crazy. So, of course, I'm a business person. So I always have people look at their business. But they should also look at things like their finances, because your personal finances is probably what's keeping your business afloat when you're first starting anyway. But you need to look at your finances. They say that finances is the number one reason for divorce. You know what I'm saying? Finances also is the number one reason for different health episodes that people have, because they are just sick to death that they can't afford certain things, right? Your environment. People don't give enough credit to the environment that they are in the most, right? So even in a corporate America, your desk, you need to make that desk kind of as serene as possible. But your house, you should really be very intentional about the things that bring you joy being in your house, right? Even,
Hmm.
you can go so far as to feng shui and, different colors or whatever. But sometimes it's just, hey, buy a comforter that you actually like. Okay.
Mm.
You're buying a comforter, buy one that you actually like, so that when you walk in the room and you see it, you get a spark of joy, right? So things like that. And I'm going to say your physical health. We know that wealth, health is the real wealth. And it's amazing how people don't take care of themselves as an answer to not being happy. But how much more unhappier are you going to be? Probably clinically depressed if you allow your health to decline. So that's a thing.
Mm.
Mental health. People have bucket lists. They understand that concept. But what about a happiness list? right? I have a happiness list. And on my list are little things. I need to know what is something I can do on a daily basis to make myself happy. What is something I can infuse that can be weekly that makes me happy? What's something I can do monthly, quarterly, and then annually, and then lifetime stuff, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, Asia is a lifetime thing. I pulled from my bucket list for that one, even though I'm gonna take my time and do it for a year. When I started getting sedentary and too comfortable here in Mexico, I was like, hey, time to shake it up. What do we want to do? Well, let's go to the bucket list. And when I looked at Asia, I was like, I'm not going way over there and then come back and go way back over there. I might as well stay over there until I hit all the spots I want to hit. So that's how it got to be a year long, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you got to understand that your mental health matters. And so the things that you want to do, happiness isn't these grand gestures all the time. Happiness can be music. Happiness can
Oh,
be
yeah.
one of my favorites, stand-up comedy. I'm silly. I love to laugh. You know, I like some of the stupidest comedy ever. And it doesn't have to be anybody else's bag but mine, because I'm very diverse in what I like, right? So just
I'm a
little
huge
things
fan of
that make you
stand-up
happy,
comedy.
right? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I'm not a big sugar person, but I love some creme brulee. So guess what I do? I have it every Sunday with my French continental breakfast. So just little things to make you happy and keep up that happiness and that mental health, which is what you guys talk about all the time, right? And then I like to look at my spiritual health. Now, I'm not religious. I am spiritual. And what I mean by spiritual is I still have a relationship with God, but it's my own. I don't need anybody to interpret with me. I don't need anybody to help me talk. That's my father with a capital F. I don't need you to help me talk to my daddy with a capital D. Okay. So we have our own relationship, but also I think about, just spiritual energy, right? Like what
Mm-hmm.
makes my soul feel well? So what kind of things can I do for that? This is why I love living by water. I recognize that being by water just makes my soul well. Now, I thought it meant I had to go to the beach, but I don't really like God's glitter sand. So I always live somewhere where I have a view of the water. So I can go on my rooftop, I can go in my guest room, I can look out the window, I see water. I instantly feel well with my soul. So what are the things
Mm-hmm.
that make your soul just deep down just feel good? So to me, that's what I mean by spiritual. I'm not saying you got to go and get back. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to define it for you. What makes you feel well, right, with your soul? And then there's personal growth, right? I'm one of those people that's a forever learner. I'm always learning things. I love to learn new things. And I feel like a part of having new experiences is learning new things. So what does personal growth look like to you? I don't think that people understand that sometimes you get in that mental health funk and you feel that depression come because you're doing the same stuff over and over again, and that is your life. You're not growing in any capacity. I'm not going to tell you how to grow. Again, this is all about us defining things for ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So growing could be now you're learning about AI because everybody's talking about it. Your business could have nothing to do with AI. Your job could have nothing to do with AI, but you just keep hearing about it. So you just kind of want to be in the know of it just enough to hang into a conversation, right? But whatever you need to grow and learn something new, personal growth, right? The next thing I'm going to say, which is about what, number 7 maybe or 8,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. We're
We're
in the
on
numbers
7.
though. Okay, so tribe, your community. Who are the people that you have around you? Because those people count, right? Now they always talk about it, in that corporate ease. That if you want to see how successful you're going to be, let me see the 5 people that you're. But if you want to see how depressed you're going to be, let me see the 5 people around you. It affects your life so much. And so if you're the type of person that you think the most different in the people around you, you also probably feel unsupported. Go find the weirdos that are just like you. There is nothing happier than finding somebody that's the same kind of weird as you. I'm so weird that I have different tribes for all of my little weirdness, right? I don't expect any one group or any one person to support all the weird stuff I got going on because that's what makes me a unique person. So it's not fair to put it on any one person, whether that's a spouse, whether that's a sibling or a best friend. It's not fair to put all of that on one person. That's why you build a tribe of people that you can hang around when you want to do stuff. Because, you might be into gaming. Guess what you should do? Go find your friends that like the game. Don't try to make your wife learn how to game, and she shouldn't try to
Right.
make you learn how to bake. So we're supposed to be whole people with multifacets, and we should go find people that are our people for each one of those little facets, right? So also I have found that it's important is contribution. Contribution is important. People think it's not, but you want to feel good about yourself, help somebody else. There's no feeling like helping somebody else. And again, I'm not going to define how you help people, but you want to feel good, help somebody else. It puts things in perspective. It gives you that feeling of gratitude because that helping other people is amazing. So don't underestimate how you're going to blow up in good feelings, good juju, good energy, all the things by helping other people. And I think the last thing is recreation. And that's because some of us are working ourselves to the bone. We are in hustle culture, and we don't understand that not only do we need rest, we need play.
Yes,
we are
we
going
do.
to be more creative, more strategic, figure out more problems if we take the time to play. And that could look like some of your old childhood stuff. Like, I still like to color. I do it on my iPad now, but I still like to color. I used to love to play jacks, was a little game with the ball and the little metal pieces, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like puzzles. I do that on my iPad. I've gotten back into leisure reading. Let me tell you how I kind of like toxic masculinity and alpha males. And there's no better toxic masculine alpha male than a werewolf. So I'm always reading about werewolves. And let me tell you how that allows me to kind of let go. And then, especially if I can get it to be a little spicy on the storyline. So that's another way that I can be creative and play and just kind of rest my mind. And I feel like when you go through those 10 things and you're intentional about what does that look like now and what would you like it to look like, I think you're on your way to designing your life and having better mental health and enjoying the life that you're living.
Definitely. That's an incredible list. I think I may have missed one of
You missed one?
the
Let me take
items.
you.
I've got
I started with business.
finance,
Business
environment,
was one.
physical
Probably you missed it,
health.
but business was one.
Yeah, business,
Uh-huh. Finance, environment, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, personal growth, tribe,
tribe,
contribution,
contribution.
and recreation.
Yeah,
Is that 10?
got it. Mm-hmm. That's 10. I've been keeping track. Awesome. So, how can people like figure out what they want? They're working a 40-hour week. Maybe they have kids. They're probably busy. They don't have time
Yeah.
for anything. They might not even know. So how do you advise people to even go about figuring out what their ideal life would look like?
So I think that's how I came up with those 10 areas, right? So I say for each of those areas, you just perform a little exercise. So you say, okay, what do I want life to look like in this one area, right? And then what does it look like right now? What is the gap in it, right? What is the obstacle of me getting from where I am to where I want to be? And, we've kind of touched on that might be resources. It might be you just don't know what it looks like. So you got to find somebody that has some type of blueprint just from you being on the outside, looking in. And to me, it's almost just like how I run businesses. As a chief operating officer, operations is only about resources, right?
Mm,
What resource do you need? So when you come up with a plan, you know where you are in A, you know where you want to go in B, and you get that plan, then it's what resources do you need? How do I manage those resources? How do I monitor those resources? How do I maximize the resources? Because it's all about figuring out what do I need for that journey. Once I figure out that person did it, and I'm kind of looking at how they're doing it, what resources do I need to do it the way that I'm thinking they did it? And the rest of it is just going to be optimizing all along the way, right? Oh, I thought it was this, but now that I have that and I'm doing this like I thought they did, that's not working. So let me try something else, right?
hmm
So I feel like it's going to be trial and error. And sometimes you need the journey of the A to B to realize that B actually is not even what you wanted, right? You might not even want B. You might want to go from A to C.
hmm
You might want to go from A to D. And so also as a business ease thing that I always say, especially to entrepreneurs, is if you think that you can perfect something by planning it, you're wrong, right? Perfection without execution is delusion.
Mm,
It's just theory. Anytime you're just planning and you're researching and that's all you're doing, you're just working with theory. You haven't done shit yet. The real education comes in when you're doing stuff. But see, we
yes.
live in this social media age where they feel like you can't do nothing until you have it perfected. So the first time you do it, it's perfect. Well, that's why you're out here looking crazy. It's not because you did it wrong. It's because you thought you should have did it right the first time. Let's go back. I'm Gen X, right? We were taught that when you want to be good at something, you practice, right?
Mm-hmm.
That meant you do it and you fail and you do it and you fail and you do it and you fail until you learn how to do it, right? We were taught practice makes perfect, not don't do it until it's perfect. It cannot be perfect until you start executing and doing stuff. And you learn stuff as you do. You learn that half that stuff you plan, you probably don't even need. It doesn't even count.
Mm,
That's just how you saw it from the outside looking in. That's not even what it is. And so it's much simpler. It's much less scary. So in the words of Nike, just do it. Just
I
do it.
love
Look at
that.
one of these little areas, figure out what you think it is, and then start executing towards, and then learn from the execution.
Yeah.
That's the
There's
way.
so much power in that too.
Mm-hmm.
I've started a few businesses of my own as well, and one I actually had some success with. And one of the biggest things that I learned out of that is exactly what you just said.
Yeah.
You got to just do it because there's so much power in the momentum. Once you get things going and you start doing it, even if at the moment you feel like you're doing terribly and you're a failure, it doesn't matter. Like, just do it because the more you do it, the more you're going to get better at it. And a lot of this comes
Mm-hmm.
into the mental health as well because it's so easy to get sucked into that hole where you're digging, you're telling yourself you're never going to make it, like you're a failure, or this is just how life is, or you're ruminating on past decisions and you're just not going anywhere, and so you get kind of stuck in that, analysis paralysis where you're
Mhm.
just afraid of doing anything because you don't want to be a failure, but then it's like you're kind of perpetuating this self-fulfilling prophecy where technically you are a failure because you're not doing anything. And it's like
Yes,
it doesn't matter if you're going to be good, like you got to just try it. And
exactly.
then that's really where like the self-efficacy comes in and your self-esteem starts getting boosted, and then all of a sudden your confidence comes in a little bit, and then before you know it, you're a leader in whatever field you're trying to be in because you've just been doing it for so long.
Yes.
Like and that's really where a lot of that power comes from. Yeah, and I love that. I constantly remind myself, like, just do it. It's such a great slogan. And
Yes.
it seems so cliche, but it's like whenever you're thinking about doing it, just go ahead and get it started. It doesn't matter if you're not that good. Just
It
try
does.
it.
And
Give
I think,
yourself like six
let me
months or
ask you
four
this,
months or
Brandon.
whatever.
Some of the people that you have heard that are most successful, haven't you, and you too, Joshua, haven't you heard things like fail and fail fast? Haven't y'all heard that kind of stuff? And this is
Oh
Mm-hmm.
coming
yeah.
from people who have made it. That's what they're talking about. They're telling us just do it. Go ahead and get started. Why haven't you started? Get started. But people think that when they get stuff wrong, that it's failure, and it actually is not failure, it's fuel. That's what it is. It's gonna fuel. You're gonna learn something. Whether you got it right or you got it wrong, you should have learned something. So that when you continue to execute, that's why they tell you fail and fail fast, because the faster you
Mhm.
fail, that means you're doing more things, and the more data you're getting, the more information you're getting on how to do it right. There are a million
Mhm.
ways to do it wrong, and there are a couple of ways to do it right. So the more you get through the million wrong, the closer you are to getting it right. And so
Yeah.
I love it too. That's all I'm gonna say, Brandon. You got me hype over here. Yes.
I know, right? Well, I read this book called What You Do Is Who You Are, and it was all about company culture and
Mm-hmm.
and it went through a bunch of different high performing cultures throughout history, some of them in
Mm-hmm.
business and some of them actually in more extreme scenarios like war and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I can't remember which business it was specifically. I want to say Amazon, but I'm don't know if I'm correct. But it was when they started, one of their core company values was actually to move fast and break things. And
Oh,
the reason why they had that was because they knew they were on the bleeding edge. Like they wanted to evolve quickly. And they
yeah.
knew that some of those evolutions would be failures, but it was about trying new things at such a constant pace. And it was kind of funny in the book, they talk about how eventually, once they got so big, they did have to take that out. It's like, once you do have a certain level of responsibility, you can no longer just be reckless. But it was all about how when they started, it didn't really matter if it was a bad idea. Like, let's just try it. And so move fast and break things. It's just like
I
that,
like
just
that.
do it. Yeah. Man, there's so much power in that because it's the momentum. And this is what I tell a lot of people. Whenever you're doing something for the first time, it feels like you're struggling, you're fighting up against a wall. You have that resistance, internal and external. But once you get going, that momentum is so magical, the snowball effect, because then it gets bigger and bigger. And then every week on Monday, you're working on your project. And the next thing you know, every day, and then it just becomes a part of your life before you realize it.
I think I'm a little addicted to it. I really do. I like new stuff. I like new experiences.
Mm,
I like new stuff. Bring on the new failure. Like, let me try it. To me, that's a part of the experience. Oh, that didn't work. I looked crazy doing that. I wish I had got a picture. I wish I had got a video. Like, I just love it. So people are even with me going to Southeast Asia. People are like, "Well, do you know anybody there?" I haven't known anybody anywhere I've gone. Guess what happens when you get there? You get to know people, right?
you meet
Wherever
people.
you go, your people are going to be there, whether your people are your ethnicity, maybe it's your religion, maybe it's just the hobbies that you have, maybe it's the type of business that you have or what you're doing. Your people, whoever that is in whatever group, they're going to be there. So how about go there and meet them? Go there and meet them.
Well,
Definitely.
and I mean, Asia specifically, they love foreigners, so you're going to get invited to a lot of gatherings. It's
I
very
already have,
common.
and I'm thinking to myself, hey, hold up.
Yeah.
I don't
Uh,
necessarily look, I like the house
yeah.
too.
Yeah, right.
Got to find that
Yeah.
balance. But
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's so
exactly right.
important to try. I mean, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. And it's like
Yeah.
the younger generation is just so scared to fail. And what
Yeah.
they don't realize that if you're not failing, you're not trying. And you're not going to succeed unless you fail, unless you try. And especially if you're learning from those mistakes and those experiences, it's
Yes.
so valuable.
It's gonna
So I
be
wanted
really
to,
interesting to see how like this next generation evolves in terms of motivation and mental health like that. If it's gonna be interesting like 10 to 15 years to see like the teenagers now, what kind of decisions they're gonna be making.
hmm
Mhm. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm always very interested in what types of stuff comes back around because more than just fashion comes back in style, right? Ways
Hmm.
of thinking come back in style, ways of doing things come back in style, all kind of stuff come back in style. They be naming it like they invented it, and we're like, no, that was so and so did that years ago. Same way with the clothes, and so I love just seeing what they do with stuff because I have noticed, and I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've noticed that the thing that the generation before you, your parents' generation, the thing that they complained about the most is usually the problem that we solve the most as the next generation. But we may not
Hmm.
have had all the information. And so we might go to the whole other extreme. Have you guys noticed that from generation to generation, how things happen? So, now we have the people that are quiet quitting, right? Why are they quiet quitting? Because you got tired of hearing your parents say stuff like they don't care about you. You're gonna die in the office. They don't, all these things like take your vacation time. Not people like they're not gonna just take their vacation time. They quit. So I love to watch how these
Yeah.
generations are taking the chief complaint of the last generation and they are solving for that, even though it may cause more problems because it may or may not have been in context, right? Yeah, I mean, that's why some people are not, jiving with the feminists. It kind of turned into something else. It was this big complaint over here, and you might have overly solved for it over here. And so it's just, I don't know. I like human behavior, though. I like that psychology of it, just looking at, it went from this to this and this. And then when you've lived as long as we have, we get to see some stuff come back around and be like, that's interesting. But when we were doing that, the problem with that was this. So I want to see how you solve the problem for that, or do you even care? So I find
Mm,
it very interesting. But to me, it's all that gift of living instead of being in constant stress. Everything that's a
Mhm.
problem, it has to be stressful. It has to be a bad thing. No, problems come up when new opportunities happen. And newness is not a bad thing. It's a great thing. But because it's new, you don't know everything that could come with it. So it's interesting. It's not necessarily as stressful. So I think we need to invite interesting and new, and the problems that come with it. And let's see how much fun we can have with solving those problems.
And I think so
Definitely.
much of that, like when I think of traveling in my time in Asia and around the country, is, very similar to what you just said. So the more the days look the same, the faster time goes. There's people out there, a vast majority of Americans are in developed countries where, their lives will largely look the same for about 20 to 40 years of their life.
Yeah.
And so whenever you travel, especially even for those vacations, people say, "Oh man, I had such a great time." A lot of it comes down to the fact that we get thrusted into the present moment when we travel. And
Yes.
so
Mm,
when we're on this working, we're working every day, we're fighting with our wife, we're focusing on the kids, we're trying to save money, we're trying to pay off our debt. We're constantly in the future. We're
Mhm.
not here now.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that happiness and God and spirituality and motivation and anything is always in the present moment.
Yeah.
It's never anywhere else. And so that's why I think travel can be so addicting, because when you're in a whole new culture, you're forced to different customs, different languages. You're having to rethink your whole life. And so it's almost like being a kid again. And so kids are constantly in the present moment. And then as we get older, we slowly start to fade away from that. We have our anxieties or we have our regrets. We're constantly in tomorrow, we're constantly in yesterday, and then we're never in right now. What am I doing right now? Where am I at? Am I happy? Am I sad? Am I upset? Like, am I content with my life? Like, am I okay with my decisions?
Yeah.
And those are questions I think a lot of us run away. And one of the most interesting things for me, because I love the psychology too, I love the puzzle of culture and everything, is
hmm
is phones. So phones have really thrown a huge curveball in mental health and also in the present moment. And it's going to be super interesting to see, the children that were born post 2010, 2008, that grew up with smartphones. Because now, I mean, it's, they're just not in the present moment to such a degree that the chances of them even really experiencing that are so low, to where they may even develop like fears of the present moment,
Mhm.
because they just have never really experienced it to any great degree. And that's kind of crazy to me to think about. Um,
I'll tell you that one of my secrets has to do with the phone. I have rescued myself from my phone, and being out of the country is a great excuse for me to do that. Now, all of my meetings have to be scheduled. Like, I don't like impromptu meetings. I like to know what my week is going to look like before the week, because that allows me the freedom to do what I want to do, even if it's just slob on the pillow. But one of the things I do with my phone is I definitely have a separate phone for business and personal. All of my children are grown, and my ringer stays off. It stays off. Not the phone, but the ringer. And usually
hmm
my phone is somewhere face down with the ringer off. And what that allows me to do is take more control of my time. So, yeah, if I'm bored and I got a minute, I can go and pick the phone up and see what's happening. But the phone cannot interrupt me when I'm doing things. I love that for me. Okay, I love it. And people say, "But you have children. What if it's an emergency? The emergency can wait until because what the hell am I gonna do from miles away for grown people? You know what I'm saying? If it's an
mhm.
emergency, call 911. That's, I'm
hmm
parenting grown people. I actually don't raise anymore. I advise. Okay. So if you don't have the skill set to handle it, then I have failed you, is how I see it. So I love that, that I don't have the way the phone is controlling me. I love that for me. And I think that people can, I always have entrepreneurs to separate that out. Like, I don't have any apps on my phone or email on my phone that is my personal phone that is for business. And I have had like business besties to text me or to send something to my personal WhatsApp about something. And I'll say, "Oh, you're talking to me about business on my personal phone. Is that what we're doing? Are you trying to get blocked? Like, what are you doing?" Like, you already know if you can't get me over here, that's because I am no longer in this mindset. I'm no longer in these hours. And guess what? I need all the hours of my personal time and my downtime. Don't bring that over here. That's a boundary. And you're purposely crossing it. And guess what? Your emergency is not my emergency. You're going to put it over there and wait till I get back over there. So I feel like that phone thing is going to be a thing, And it's going to be interesting to see. But what we always see is that there's a spectrum of stuff. So stuff might get way worse, way worse, way worse before people realize, oh, we need to bring it back. I have been trying, my youngest son will be 25 this year. He just turned 24 in November. And you would think that he is one of those that always has a phone. Well, hell, I've been trying to get in touch with him for the last couple of days. He finally texted me back and he said, oh, I took the SIM card out of my phone because people just kept bothering me. I couldn't think. Oh, you've already learned that, have you? So I feel like they may be hitting that spectrum, that end to where they understand that you can't create your own flow if people keep dragging you into other flows. And so I think they're getting it, Brandon. I think they're because yeah, you took the SIM card out. You didn't just turn the phone, you took the SIM card out, like you went that far.
Mhm.
So
It's
yeah,
very mature.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
that's great. Yeah, that's stuff like that is what I'm hopeful for is, you know, and we definitely are raising awareness around mental health and all that now to where people are realizing the impact of the phone, you know, and yeah, and I mean, this ties into the whole conversation because it really it takes us away from what we really want. There's these quick hits of dopamine and excitement and instead of us contemplating the things that we want to do. And it's kind of crazy because, you know, we, all of us here grew up without phones.
yes.
And so it's like, well, I remember a time when there was no phones, you know, when, you know, there wasn't that quick distraction. Like you could go watch television and stuff, but it wasn't really the same. And so
Hmm.
it's nice to see some people making that decision. It's interesting. I actually came across a study the other day where they're finding out with the younger generations now, I think it's even Gen Z, that they're drinking quite a bit less than millennials. And so it's like something that they've learned from the older generations, like, all right, like, and it's drastic too. It's like a huge drop, like 40% or something like that, where they're drinking far less. And then a lot of them aren't really getting into the whole sexualized scene as well. And so it's going to be really interesting to see the impact on the mental health. And it really teaches us something too, because, you know, just because they're younger doesn't mean that we can't learn something.
Mhm.
And seeing them make those decisions really kind of empowers us as well. It's like, wow, if they can do it, you know, we can as well, you
Yes.
know.
I've definitely had
Yeah.
my son to have me rethink, why do I think a fun time includes a cocktail? Like every time. Like being in my 50s now, I've definitely lowered and reduced the amount of cocktails I have in any one sitting because this 50-year-old body is like, hey, that don't serve us, cut it out. And the
Mhm.
recovery time is way worse and way longer. But
Hmm.
just to see them have fun without having to do that. Like we can go out to eat and you're of age to drink and you're not trying to order a drink. Like I couldn't wait to order a drink legally. So yes, we do learn from them. And it made me look and see, okay, um, a good time doesn't have to include a cocktail every time. Like
Mhm.
I only drink socially. Like I can't sit at home and drink, which is I know that people see that as good, but if you're socially a lot, then you're drinking a lot. So I find that I can go from feast to famine with drinking very quickly based on my social schedule. And so
Hmm.
him, kind of behaving like that at 24, 23 really is when I really started to see it. I realized I was like, oh, okay, so I need to look at myself and see why am I associating going out and having fun and socializing with I have to have a cocktail with an umbrella in my hand. Like, so yeah, I agree with you. They teach us a lot. They teach us a lot. If you're willing
Um,
to look, right? If you're willing to
yeah.
understand that just because you're older don't mean you're smarter, and just because you're older doesn't mean that there's not something that someone younger can teach you. But also, just because you're an expert at somebody, a non-expert can come in and teach you something too. I've had people to challenge the way I taught them to do something and made me stop and think, oh, you're right. Like there's new technology. You don't have to do it that way. Or yeah, you're right. Like the needle has moved. That's not necessarily the designation anymore, the destination anymore. It's this now. And so it's amazing. It's amazing to watch.
It's definitely a superpower to learn from others' mistakes.
Mhm.
You know, you can learn from your own mistakes,
Yeah.
but that takes time. And if you can learn from other people, you know, observe other generations and see how they act and what they do and you know, take that into yourself and kind of internalize it and reflect on it. It's making can really go a long way. And I wanted to go back and touch on you mentioned boundaries. I think
Mhm.
setting boundaries with people,
Yes.
with devices, a lot of places in your life can really go a long way. You can just get sucked into social media and get sucked into social groups. Someone texts you at night and it might mess up your sleep, and we all know how important sleep is. And just setting those boundaries can make a really big impact on your life and your happiness.
It can, but it's so funny because when we think boundaries, so many people think other people are the problem. When boundaries is an inside job, you know what I'm saying? It
Mm,
starts there. Some of
yeah,
us don't have a problem setting boundaries, but we don't respect them ourselves, and so therefore other people don't respect them. So I feel like it starts with us. First of all, understanding what you need as a boundary, setting it as a boundary, and then you respecting it. Because other people are just going to go off what you do, and they're only doing what you allow them to do most often. We're not talking about people that are just barreling through people's boundaries with violence, or some type of attack, or some type of theft. We're not talking about that extreme version. We're just talking about
yeah.
everyday people where you said don't come in my office while I'm working. I get off at 4 because you're working from home, but then you're allowing the knock on the door at 12 to come in, and you're having the whole conversation. So why wouldn't they keep knocking every time they want to talk? You didn't respect your own boundary. And so I feel
Hmm.
like it definitely starts as an inside job, but they are definitely
Mhm.
needed. There's nothing that you can have that you want as a goal without boundaries. And boundaries start with you, and they need self-discipline as much as it does discipline others to respect your boundaries.
Definitely.
Yep.
So I wanted to get into some common challenges that people face with kind of getting this financial freedom and living the way they want. I know imposter syndrome is huge. I think almost everybody experiences imposter syndrome. So how do you deal with that and help people instill more confidence in themselves?
So I like two big strategies for this imposter syndrome thing that's only been a thing since the last 3 years. We growing up, we didn't ever hear about imposter syndrome. You either knew how to do it or you damn didn't know how to do it. One of the two. It's not you knew how to do it, but you didn't think you did. Like if you were doing it, that was the evidence, right? So that's the first thing that I use, evidence. Do I have evidence? If I look in the past, have I done it before? Right? If I've done it before, I can do it again.
Hmm.
So first, is there evidence that you are an expert or that you can do it? Okay. The second thing I look at is, and Brandon kind of touched on this earlier, is are you celebrating small wins? Because when you celebrate small wins, it builds that thing that Brandon talked about, which is momentum, right? So look for the small wins. Stop looking at, I often have to explain to people the difference between projects and tasks, right? They're often giving me this whole big task list. I'm like, that's not a task, that's a project. So if a task needs a series of other tasks to be accomplished, that's a project. Okay. So let's build the project out in the different phases so we can do what? Have small wins all along the way. And we need to celebrate those wins along the way, because from win to win, we're building momentum to get us to the end of the project with success. So I like to look at, do I have evidence that I have done this before? And let me tell you how. I'll go ahead and admit in front of you guys and in front of your audience that sometimes there's no evidence and I think I can do it anyway. And I'll give you an example. My youngest son, when he played basketball for the YMCA, his coach I don't know. I just didn't like the coach of the basketball. And I just felt like, me having played basketball in high school and watching basketball and being a Jordan fan, I might know a little more than you. I don't feel like you're up to par. Until there was a game that he didn't have a chance to show up with. And I was like, I'll do it. And let me tell you how them boys lost. They lost. I did not know how to do it. It was way more into it than I thought. So maybe I should have had imposter syndrome. So one of the things I try to look for is evidence. Have I done it before? Do I have the things that I need to do it again? And then the next thing that I have is I build momentum. I don't just say it's a win when I complete it, because God knows when we'll complete it. So I
Mm,
need something all along the way to keep pushing me to go. If you wait until you finish the whole thing, you may never make it, because you may lose confidence, and that imposter syndrome comes in, and now you don't do anything and you don't make it. So I think small wins are a great strategy too.
Mhm.
definitely. Yeah, focusing on your successes and not just ruminating in your failures. I mean, obviously you want to think about what went
Yeah.
wrong and try to learn from it, but really focusing on those small wins to build that momentum, I think that's critical.
Yeah. And even sometimes we're not even failing. It's just taking us too long to get to the ultimate goal. So that length of time is feeling like failure when it's just slow growth is still growth.
Hmm.
It's we're
Mhm.
Yeah.
still getting there. We're still not where we were. We're still a step ahead of where, so we have to celebrate that.
Yeah. It all
I
comes
think
back
one
to
of the
mindset.
things too with, oh, my bad, Josh. You go.
Oh, that was it. Go for it, Brandon.
Well, I literally was just talking about imposter syndrome like 2 days ago, with somebody, and one of the things that I always try to tell people is, or at least talk about, is that I think having a certain level of that feeling of being an imposter is somewhat healthy,
Yes.
because so there's two different approaches whenever you're doing something. If you feel like you're the best at what you're doing,
Mhm.
you tend to not do as well as you could be, and that's because of that feeling to want to be the best causes you to strive. So whenever you feel like you might be an imposter, a lot of times that comes from doing new things. And so
Mhm.
if you're in a new environment, you're around new people, or people are asking you to do something you may have never done before, it's healthy to have a little voice in your head sometimes like, wow, are you really this qualified? Because that voice is going to force you to be in the present moment more. You're going to think more about it, like, all right, I want to do a good job. Versus if you're a little too overconfident, like, you may just sit back, like, oh man, I'm the best at this. Like, I don't need to worry about it. And, it's pride. Like, we allow pride to creep in instead of, humility. And so that's what I try to always tell people is like, man, if you feel like you're kind of a little in over your head, that's good. That means you're growing.
And
You're
it
you're
means
in a
you'll do
new
the
new
best, right?
scenario.
Mm-hmm. I love that because it will keep you on top of your game. Because sometimes when people feel like they're the best, they don't try any harder than what they're doing. And you miss
Mhm.
innovation and you miss the opportunity to be even better. You miss the opportunity to when people are calling for you to be even better. And so I love that. That was great, Brandon.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I totally agree. So Shay, what's one
Yes.
question that you'd wish more people would ask you?
I wish, in the spirit of what we're talking about today, I wish people would ask the question of themselves, why not me? I wish people would ask that question more.
Hmm.
I feel like it's one of my superpowers. If I see somebody else, if I'm excited about something, I see something new and I get excited about it, the first thing I'm asking myself is why not me? And I feel like people ask the question, why them? And you're focused on the wrong thing. It's why not me? And then now you start to do that gap analysis of, okay, it is them. Why isn't it me? What is the difference? And you start to do the work to get there if that's what you truly want. But I also feel like people need to understand when something is desired, but they don't really want it. And I'll give you an
Mm.
example. I desire a six pack. I'm not going to the fucking gym. I'm not doing it. So I don't really want it, do I? So I
Hmm.
think there's also a difference, right? But if it's something that you know you really want and not just a desire that, you're not going to work toward, I think the best question you can ask yourself is why not me?
I love that. I think it's a great thing to ask yourself and
Yeah.
reflect on.
Yeah.
Definitely. So I wanted to get into self-care a little bit.
Okay.
You mentioned your happy list, and I
Yes.
really love that concept. What are a few other things that you have on that list besides your trip to Southeast Asia?
So I'll tell you, when I talk about self-care, the first thing I want people to understand is the difference between personal care and self-care. So just because you went and got a massage, that might not be self-care. That might be personal care. If you got your nails done, your hair done, that might be personal care. That might not be self-care. So I define self-care as that almost that spiritual growth thing, that spiritual, what is filling up your cup? What helps you to fill up your cup? What recharges you? What gets your energy back on full? I look at
Mm.
those things as self-care. Going to get my nails done actually kind of stresses me out. Massage actually kind of stresses me out. I like the result. right? So,
Yeah.
but I'm funny like that. Like I'm funny about people touching me. And so I have to go to my happy place to get a pedicure because I'm extremely ticklish on my feet. So, it's
The
stressful
worst.
getting it, but I love the result, right? So if it's not actually relaxing you and recharging you, just because it does for somebody else doesn't mean it will for you. So you have to define things correct. Personal care, self-care. So some of the things that fill me up is, like I said, recognizing that when I was going on vacations, I tended to steer more towards beach vacations than mountain or cities or whatever, and understanding how the water filled me up and made me feel more recharged. So now I spend my mornings up on that rooftop looking at the Caribbean Sea, and I feel recharged. And so that's a part of my particular self-care, right? I'm greedy. I like good food. So having something great to eat, flavorful, with the right spices. I like spicy food too. So having something great to eat of different cuisines and different cultures, I love it. It's self-care for me. I can have a bad day, but if I go to dinner and I'm getting something good, my favorite Mexican restaurant, my favorite Italian restaurant, my favorite Thai restaurant, oh, I'm gonna come
Mm,
back feeling good. That's self-care. It filled me back up. So I look at things like that as self-care. I will admit that it hasn't been since I'm going to say, empty nester days that I understand that we have a cup, right? And we're not supposed to run low on that cup. We're supposed to constantly be using out of the cup and filling it back up. And that's that self-care, that recharge. But
hmm.
also, when we are of service to other people, we're supposed to serve from our overflow, not going in our cup. Because I feel like that's that thing to where people don't understand it's not just you the reason why you need to recharge. You're allowing other people to drain you down to needing recharge.
Oh
So
yeah.
I also find my self-care is watching my cup. What do
Mm,
I need? I might have a day where I'm planning to do this, and this, but my cup is too low. And even if I tried to do it, it's not going to be of excellence like I like for my stuff to be. So let's see if we can move things around, even if I have to move some deadlines, because now maybe I need more rest. Maybe I need to get out and be around people more. Now, I don't like to be around people all the time, Jesus. But every now and then you do need that spark of connectivity from other people.
yeah.
Maybe because you're the one that's the strong friend all the time that people lean on all the time. Who is your strong friend? And if you don't have one, can we find one? Right? So every now and then I recognize as self-care, I need to find my strong friend. Who can I complain to? You know what I'm saying? Who
Yeah.
can I go over here and say, hey, shit ain't going right? And everybody I talk to expect me to solve their problems. So they're not the proper source for me to talk about this to. So self-care looks different for me because I understand I'm filling my cup. So yeah, it's great things like, going out and seeing new stuff and traveling and exploring is a part of it. Even like I told you, I am so silly. Stand-up comedy, I have a playlist, y'all, of things that make me laugh till I cry. I just went to that playlist the other day, and some of it ain't politically correct, let me tell you. And I ain't trying to be politically correct because it's for me. It ain't for the people that wouldn't find it politically correct, right?
Hmm.
So I'm not going to tell you about that stuff, but I will tell you there are things like there's this one live stream where a guy who he's kind of overweight, right? And he brought his mom in to the video and he introduced everybody to his mom. He's kind of like a little influencer, right? And then he said, yeah, I get up every day and I exercise. And she looked at him, right? And she started laughing because she's real religious. So she's not into lies, right? And she's like, why you got me on here with these people and you lying? And she's like, turn it off, turn it off. And he's like, no. And then I walk every day and I do. And she is just bawling, laughing, and trying to get him to stop the lie. And I cry laughing every time, right? Every
Oh
time.
man.
And so, yeah, and some of my favorite comedians, they probably gonna go to hell because a lot of them are atheists, but I love them. And they make me laugh on their way to hell. But so yeah, laughter, they say it's great medicine. I love to laugh. Music, I like to sing, even though I'm off key, but you can't tell me I'm not Whitney Houston up in here at 12 o'clock on a Tuesday. And I also like every now and then to take what I call a dance break. So again, I have a playlist that are songs that make me want to move, right? So I'll play that, and I don't like to exercise, but I call it moving so I can cheat and kind of get it in there. And
Oh
this
yeah,
little
that
health
counts.
ring is really telling me how many steps I'm not taking a day, so I need to do more. But I love to take a little dance break to kind of break up the day, get the moving, change the mood, and then kind of get
Hmm.
back with a new mindset. So all of that to me are different types of personal care and self-care, and they're on my happiness list.
That's fantastic. Those are some really great methods to
Thank you.
help
Because I don't
refill
like
your cup.
to focus on the ones that it takes you time to get to. Because people don't understand there's supposed to be a pocket of happiness in every day that you live. Now, I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
saying you're going to be happy all day long, but you should be able to
Mm,
find a pocket of happiness every day. And it should be your
hmm.
goal because those little pockets, they eventually build up to a whole little jumpsuit.
They do.
So get your pockets.
And if you like in politically correct humor, I would
Yes.
recommend Kill Tony. I don't know
Oh,
if
okay.
you've heard of that show.
I have not.
It's they do a live show every Monday night, and
Okay.
they pull names out of a bucket, and
Hmm.
they get the opportunity to go up and do 1 minute of stand up, and then they interview
Oh,
them afterwards. And so the
okay.
host
What
Tony
platform is
Hinchcliffe,
this on? You see,
uh,
I'm engaged with this.
yeah, you can watch it on YouTube,
Okay,
but it's also on Apple Podcasts and all the other
got you.
platforms.
Kill
But I like
Tony.
watching it too. Yeah, I highly recommend it.
All right.
It's very funny,
Thank you. I take
definitely.
recommendations. Thank you.
Yeah. And so you have a morning show too. You want to tell us
Okay.
a little bit about that?
I will. So my morning show, it's more along the lines of my coaching entrepreneurs, right?
Hmm.
So if I had to
Not comedy.
super niche down the entrepreneurs that I prefer to coach, it's going to be online service-based businesses. I don't really prefer product-based businesses. I don't really prefer brick and mortar service-based businesses. So first of all, it's online service-based business, but I really niche it down to Gen X, BIPOC, female, and then we put in the online service-based business, right? But for the morning show, like anybody with an online service-based business is going to benefit. So my YouTube channel is called First Six Figures. And so it goes live on there Monday through Thursday at around 8:20 mark, and we go into 9 o'clock. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help this specific segment of entrepreneurs get to their first six figures. And so I have a Facebook group for that, but I actually understood that to be of more service, I got to give them more information more often and in a way that they can digest it and in a way where they can ask questions. So I came up with this morning show as a way to do that. And so one of the things that I do that I think is highly valuable that kind of I think makes it different than everything else. I make them stop in the moment to think about how are they going to apply what I just said, what you just learned. What I have
Hmm.
found is most people, when you explain things to them, they're not an idiot. They get it. They get the concept of it. However, when they go and sit down to go and execute what they thought they knew, they don't know where to start. They never thought about the actual taking the steps. And so now they have questions, and where they learn it from is no longer available to answer those questions, most likely. And that could be free stuff, and it's stuff that people are buying, and it's high ticket stuff that people are buying. They think they got it, then they go to do it and they don't, but you spend all this money and you're in the same place. So what I do on that morning show is I give you the concept, I give you actionable steps, and then we go through the people that are live in studio with me and on in the live chat. I'm asking the question every time, how are you going to apply this? And what obstacles would you have to applying this? So I can coach on the spot. So that's what I think is different about it. So yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check
Thank
it
you.
out. Yeah. So if listeners have questions or want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
So I am Sha Cannon, COO everywhere. So @ShaCannon, COO everywhere.
Awesome. Very
Yes.
cool. So if you're feeling brave, I'd like to try something new
Oh,
today.
let's do it.
Awesome. So this is a new segment called The Final Dose.
Okay.
And how it works is we're gonna spin a wheel that selects a word or phrase at random, and
Okay.
then you'll share a story or your first thought that comes to mind. Sound good?
Yes. I'm
All
excited.
right. Let me share my screen here so we can
Oh, we get to see the spin
see
too?
the
Oh, this is
wheel. Oh
amazing.
yeah. All right. Can you guys
Okay,
see the
it's coming.
wheel?
Okay, now I see it. Final dose.
All right. So I'm gonna spin the wheel
Okay.
and we'll see what we get. Gratitude.
Oh, yes. Okay, so the
All
first thing that
right.
comes to mind to me about gratitude is that that is the best energy you can be in to make things happen, to make change come about is gratitude. I love understanding that when I feel like, even in that imposter syndrome, but anytime I feel like I feel resistance to something, I immediately try to find where is my gratitude energy before I start problem solving. Because if I
Mm,
problem solve from the deficit that I'm feeling, it's not going to work as well as if I stop, get into a energy of gratitude, and then try to solve the problem, because I've already raised myself. So I'm solving the problem from a higher height now. And so gratitude, I think, is a superpower. So anytime you're feeling resistance to something, anytime you're feeling any kind of negativity, go to that gratitude and then raise that vibration and then come back to solve for whatever had you down. So gratitude is a superpower.
that's beautiful. Yeah, definitely taking that time to practice that gratitude, figure out what you're thankful for can really help
Yeah.
you. Excellent. Well, Shay, thank you so much for sharing your time and helping us cut through the bullshit.
Yes. No bullshit, Shay. I love it. Look, my
Awesome.
my
And thank
default
you.
my default demeanor. Thank you for bringing me home.
Definitely. It was a pleasure having you on. And Brandon, thank you for joining us as well. It's
Oh
always
yeah,
great.
I'm glad to have been here. This was a great conversation.
Definitely it was. All right. Bye, everybody.